Good morning. I think we might as well make a start now, and I'm sure others will join us. Actually, they are already. So good morning, everybody. This is a webinar to launch our new energy efficiency measures and associated works framework. My name's Mary Bennell. I'm from Southwest Procurement Alliance. We have AJ Eaton from ENGIE, from MySpace here, whoops, Paul Manning from ENGIE, and Jason Stoyle from Amaresco. And they're all three going to be talking about their activities and their contribution and what they are contributing to the framework. I'm going to do a short introduction, just very, very briefly, and then I'll hand over to the three of them to give their presentations. We are recording this, and we will be sending out copies of the recording, the presentations, and the framework brochure to you all. In fact, we won't be sending out a recording because it's too big a file. We'll just be giving you a link to the file. But rest assured, you will get all the information there. So good morning, everybody. I'll go on to the next slide. I should be going on to the next slide. We hope we're going on to the next slide. We are not going on to the next slide. Yes. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the presentations. And I'm sure you're all familiar with how to do Q&A, but yes, there's a Q&A button there. So type it in and put your question there. We can also take verbal questions at the end. We'll just need to allow you in to be a presenter. So that's the way forward. So really just talking about the Southwest Procurement Alliance and who we are. We are part of the LHC group, which has been around since 1966, and we were launched as Southwest Procurement Alliance in October 2019. And our group frameworks were used for projects totaling 350 million in 2019-20, and the number of projects 720. And the number of clients we deal with across the country, public sector clients, is 279. This is our national structure. We have our Centre of Technical Excellence in Uxbridge, and then we have the 5 regional business units, of which we're one. So yes, this is to launch our Retrofit energy efficiency framework. And just a bit of, I'm sure you're all very, very aware of this, but just to pick up on a bit and talk about the context. And AJ is going to speak a bit more about the context. But yes, slow full housing, 5 million homes. The cost of retrofit is between 3,000 to 50,000 per home. Average cost 20,000. And if we're going to meet the 2030 target, which some of our clients are, then we'd have to retrofit 10,683 properties. As I say, 2050 is the government target, but some of our Southwest groups, Exeter and Bristol, have said 2030, and that's only 9 years away. So the purpose of the N8 framework is to deliver decarbonisation and energy efficiency products. And obviously, we provide, as framework providers, we provide technical expertise, compliance with procurement rules, public sector procurement rules. We provide project support, quicker and more efficient procurement, and demonstrate value for money. And also, you know who you will be working with. It's not a sort of a reach out to the market and see who responds. You know who are the framework providers, and that is obviously very important and can lead to longer term partnerships. So we have on the framework 21 individual framework measures. And I must say this framework is not only just for the domestic residential market, it's across the whole public sector. So some areas more relevant to the residential domestic market, some to the general public sector. For example, all the ones around cavity wall insulation and improving insulation will apply to both, but EV charging infrastructure, obviously of great interest across the public domain, and some of the larger, more sophisticated building energy management systems and more attuned to larger buildings. We have two work streams, individual measures, and we have these are all the companies on our individual measures work stream. So they will deliver one or more of the individual measures. So if you just wanting to do something specifically, you can go to the relevant or look at the relevant companies on that work stream. You know, one or two measures, but we do have the multiple measures, which is where Amaresco, NG and MySpace come in to deliver across the whole spectrum. They can deliver across the whole spectrum and help you with strategic planning and working it through your challenges and your projects through. We also have a consultancy framework that sort of runs alongside our retrofit framework. And the services offered are building energy management, certificates, asset management, development, project specification, project management, and we have 3 companies on that framework who can work with you to develop strategies and plans. In terms of calling off from the framework, there are 2, I'm sure you're all familiar, but there are 2 routes, either a direct award or a mini competition. And we run an expression of interest. If you are interested in doing a project through our framework, we will run an expression of interest with the eligible companies. If you want to do a direct award, it's one company, and if you want to do a mini competition, it's with all of them on that framework. And then we collect and monitor project progress as it goes. There are various criteria for direct award, and they're in our Framework Alliance contract schedule 4. If you want to have a detailed look, do get in touch with us. As I say, we are a public sector organisation, and we do run a community benefit fund and social value. We recycle all our profits back into social value projects. We have a community benefit fund where we offer £1,000 to very small charities who don't usually get grants, nominated by our clients who are using our projects. And these are some of the projects that we have done on behalf of them over the last year. Finally, from me, this is who we are. We do have a website that's up and running, but as I say, we will be sending you all the details out after this session. So, you know, but if you do want to talk to any of us, we are here. There are our contact details. So on that note, I shall stop sharing and hand you over to AJ, who's going to talk to you about what his company is up to. Right.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, everyone. It's a bit of a strange environment, this, because I'm speaking. I don't know if you're there. So hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to share my screen. Should be the one. Okay. Okay, great stuff. So welcome everyone. My name is AJ Eaton. For most of you on this call, I've either met you or we've had the joy of speaking over a device like this at some point over the last 12 months. So it's really nice to see you all again. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just really talking about the framework and the need for change, and a little bit about who we are, if you don't know us. My screen is not moving. See if I can try a different route here. Here we go. Right. So I'm going to talk about who we are, case for change, need for change, a little bit about an example project, a little bit about some of the challenges and some alternative views or thoughts. My contact details are at the bottom of the screen there. So always happy to have a chat with people about sharing our opinions and views, and just talk to you about some of your questions that you may have post this presentation. So who are we? So we're a Southwest-based housing specialist, and we focus only in the asset management and new build sector of social housing. We're independent, privately owned and financially secure, part of the Southwest-based construction group, Midas, who many of you will know, based here in Exeter with offices in Bristol, Plymouth, down in Cornwall, Indian Queens, and also in Taunton. Award-winning, so we've worked with many of you on the call on a number of award-winning projects with the Chartered Institute of Housing, Constructing Excellence Southwest, and highly commended this year for our project with Plymouth Community Homes down in Devonport. Also an Equality and Diversity Award for our training program that we developed for autism in social housing. And we're also Considerate Constructors Gold Award winners this year for our project in the Southwest. Experience of low carbon projects, retrofit, new build, so NFIT, ZEBCAT, Energy Sprung, Passive House. There's probably a few more acronyms that we can throw in there. Some of the whole house retrofit competition stuff with bays we're doing at the moment. Lots of different models, lots of learning that we've done throughout our time of delivering those programs. And I would say, as we get into this, that it's fair to say that these projects are complex and difficult, and we've made mistakes and learned as we've gone along, as many of you would have done if you've done any of these projects as well. And we shouldn't be scared about making mistakes. It's about, that's how we learn. And part of these sessions that we've been doing, not just for Southwest Procurement Alliance, but for people like Chartered Institute of Housing, Constructing Excellence, etc., is about sharing our experiences with you so that you can learn from them too. So the case for change. Many of you, if you're on this call, will already know this, but it's always useful to reinforce that the case for change is set out in the Climate Change Act of 2008 and further reinforced through the Clean Growth Strategy paper of 2017. Now, all of that in the midst of what we're going through at the moment may have got lost in translation of where it's all coming from. But in essence, that sets the requirement for all homes to be NZEB or nearly zero energy buildings by 2050. And as Mary rightly said, a lot of these Southwest businesses or Southwest housing providers and local authorities have already declared a climate emergency and made commitments to be carbon neutral by 2030. So we will have a little debate later of what exactly that means and how we get there. But some very ambitious targets considering the scale of work that we've got to do. The full decarbonisation of electric production, it should be complete by 2028. So some people have got a view that as long as you're connecting your property to be electric only by 2028, that makes it carbon neutral. I'm not quite sure I share that view. And for me, the really important part of the decarbonisation is about addressing fuel poverty. In 2016, 12% of households in the UK, in England, were classified as fuel poor. That's worse in the Southwest, and it's certainly worse in the rental sector as well. Some statistics that produced recently, approximately 15,000 deaths per annum are due to cold homes, and the impact of poor housing on the NHS is calculated to be about £1.4 billion per year. And as you may well know, we have the Climate Change Conference in the UK in Scotland in November of this year. I'm hoping that will still go ahead, but again, that gives a great platform and shows the UK's commitment to tackling climate change. So this is the scale of the issue that we are faced with. Estimated 29 million properties or homes will be around in 2050. And if we think that new build is going to address a big part of that problem, then here's the startling reality that it will not. Only about 5 million new homes will exist in 2050. 24 million of the homes that are going to be in 2050 we have with us today. So the scale of the issue is considerable. New homes we're building are not being built to nearly zero energy building status. So we're actually making the problem worse, because we're not actually building, we're still building properties with gas boilers in, and there's the Code for Sustainable Homes, or the Future Home Standard, that's going to talk about eradicating gas boilers by 2025 or maybe sooner. But every property we're putting a gas boiler in is another property that we're going to need to retrofit in the future. 35% of the energy used in the UK is domestic, used for domestic supply. So that's in homes, and it equates for around about 20% of the carbon emissions in the country. So there is a focus on electrifying heat and hot water. And one of the key reasons for that is because we said earlier about the decarbonisation of electric supply. But there is also another part of that, and that really comes down to the that gas is clearly a fossil fuel. It contains carbon, so we needed to eradicate that to achieve our carbon emission standards or commitments. But also that we are now a net importer of gas into this country. So security of supply is a real key issue. And that is part of the reason the government is investing in nuclear and renewables and so on. So we can actually be in control of our own destiny in terms of our energy supply. As we touched on earlier, by 2050, all homes will need to be NZEB to meet the carbon budget or have some method of offsetting. We also need to think about the journey on how we're going to get to that sort of NZEB standard, with talk of a staging post of EPC C by 2030, 2035 as a stepping stone. If that is the case, and if we do adopt that approach, the key part is not seeing EPC C as a final resting place. So whatever we do must be part of the journey onto achieving the outcomes and strategy that we set. Despite all of what's going on at the moment in terms of pandemics and the impact that's having on the businesses, on economy, and the way we live our life, the government has been very firm in committing to carbon reduction, with pressure from people like CBI, CLC, RSCS, etc., on using decarbonisation as a vehicle to take us out of recession and to achieve the outcomes that we've agreed. So the scale of the issue: 24 million homes with only a very, very small percentage either A or B rated. So 90% of the stock in England will need to be retrofitted to achieve the energy outcomes that we require. So now I'm going to move on. You'd probably like some pictures. So here's a bit of an example of a whole house retrofit program, an ERDF funded program. This is down in Torquay or down in Torbay. So sort of gives you bringing a bit of reality to the type of projects that we're going to be talking about through this type of framework. And I'm sure colleagues later will be talking about the projects that they've done and have similar examples. But here's a real life example of the type of stock that we're going to need to retrofit and how we're going to make this NZEB. So below is the design created by a specialist partner of ours that we've been working with in the Exeter area, and looks at the energy enclosure on the outside here. We can see just on the left-hand side, we in order to address the problem with this little flat roof on these sort of side areas here, we actually put a new pitched roof on there to improve the aesthetics of the property, but also to help with the insulation. Insulated floor, a heat pump, an outside pod for thermal store, battery and heat pump, inbuilt PV into the roof. And this is what it looks like as we're starting to do this process. So we can see here the roof's been changed, the pitched roofs have gone on, the external cladding solution is started to be installed. So this was an off-site fabricated steel frame. So this project looked at utilising off-site technology. That's always through as well. And here we are, sort of a view from a drone of the PV installation to provide the micro generation for these 4 units in this particular block. So what are the challenges? Well, part of the challenge we have is about the programs. They do need, this is a long-term program. We're talking about decarbonising stock by 2050. The thing that we need is, we don't need really more pilots. What we need is some consistency in the demand. If we're going to invest, and the supply chain and manufacturers are going to invest in this market, we do need some long-term programs as service providers. And we're going to use, if we are going to do pilots, they need to inform the model and connect to the program. So a pilot at the start that then runs through the stock and keeps that volume moving. As I've said, the longer term programs help with the investment in skills and the community engagement that Mary talked about earlier. And the key thing really is the client and service provider collaboration, the early engagement of partners who are going to work together to deliver these programs is absolutely essential. There, we've got, seeing from the framework, there is a select list of organisations who have the capability of delivering some of these services, and we do need to build that supply chain, and the programs really sort of need to ramp up. And I think it's the RSES is suggesting that that's like an S curve in terms of how we build volume into the marketplace so that we can reach our peak capacity. Technology development, we've been working with a company with developing an AI platform that helps to manage and integrate technology in a holistic way, so that the technology works together and works with the resident to minimise their energy footprint within their home and look at how we can flatten demand across the grid. Supply chain, if you haven't noticed, is very limited, and we need to build that supply chain. For those of you who are aware of the EWI market in the Southwest, we are seeing massive strain on that marketplace at the moment, with labour costs now double what they were 6 months ago, because there's such a demand for such a small or low skill pool in the area. So thinking about how we're going to upskill and retrain people is a really key part of any strategy that we put together in terms of developing a decarbonisation programme. Payment and cash flow is also going to be important as we come out in a post-pandemic economy for the supply chain and some of the key players that are going to be in this marketplace, as well as understanding the impacts that past 2030 and 2035 is going to have on you as clients and us as service providers delivering these projects. So as we think about procurement, and I know that some of you on the call are from a procurement background, we need to think about how do we procure these types of projects. Use of frameworks is a really key part of this for me, and frameworks like the Southwest Procurement Alliance framework, which has done a lot of the legwork in evaluating the partner's ability to deliver the programs, is key. But picking a partner is really important, and also thinking about the messages and the methodology that's set out in the construction playbook is a really key part of that. It's sort of almost back to our for those of you who are old enough to remember Egan and Latham, it's the principles of partnering and collaboration that's going to help us to deliver these type of projects. They're not as simple as, please go and install this. We need to have a much more holistic approach of how we're going to plan the stock. So is there a different way? I'm going to talk very briefly now about an alternative to a whole house retrofit, and that is thinking about how we use that whole house methodology to fit more with the way that we invest in our stock in the social housing sector. So the strategy and benefits to this type of approach means that by step-by-step integration, it fits more with the way that we traditionally invest in our stock. It means that we're not replacing components before the end of their life, which causes problems for our colleagues in finance who've looked at how they're going to write off those assets over a period of time. But also it gives us a step-by-step methodology in actually helping us to address fuel poverty. Flattens demand for electricity in the grid and provides employment opportunities. I'll whiz through some of these because you can read these. So the first part for me is the one part of the investment that we're going to be making into our assets that isn't already in our business plans and isn't covered by our existing budgets is the micro generation provision. And the only way that you will achieve an EPC A-rated property is by having a method of micro generating electricity. So how do we do that? There's lots of different methodologies, and some of my colleagues who are going to be speaking later will talk to you about some of those different funding models that could be utilised to help to underpin that investment. But combining that with storage and AI technology to minimise the energy usage for the user makes the biggest impact in terms of the investment you'll make for your resident. Combining that with LED storage is also another key part, and doing that we've found will estimate a reduction of around 50% in the electricity bill, the energy bill for the resident, just by getting that right, by the microgeneration storage, AI technology, and the LED lights will massively reduce the energy bills for the residents straight off. And that's why we think it's such a critical part of the building block. And for us, I think integrating this work as not a standalone process, but being part of the asset management investment strategy is a key part of the strategy you've got for every individual unit. Next, fabric. This is a sort of traditional area that we're all used to doing programs with EWI and Windows and all these great things. The key part here is the detailing and how that fits together with the overall strategy for the building and integrating it with some of the other elements as well. So when we're putting a scaffold up, let's think about, if we haven't already got microgeneration on the roof, let's think about that. Let's think about how those interfaces between the EWI and the windows work to maximize the insulation value that we're creating. Think about the ground floor slab, and think about underfloor insulation if necessary, or certainly insulating down below that DPC level and how we can do that, as well as how we build in heat recovery into that model. So we're thinking about how we're going to take that moist air out of the building that we're now going to make really airtight, and think about how we're going to take out the moist air. And finally, heat and hot water. This for me is the final stage of the strategy. And I think at the moment, there's lots of stuff in the papers that you may have read from the Telegraph, that heat pumps don't work and so on. Heat pumps work really, really well. But if you put a heat pump in without addressing the fabric issue, they will be expensive to run, and they'll be more expensive to run than the gas. What we've found from our experience is that when you get that insulation right on the outside of the building and get the air tightness and the heat recovery working properly, the demand for heat is very, very limited. So the data that we're now seeing through from the schemes that we've done is that only when it's really, really cold are people utilising the heat pump for the heat. What they're using the heat pump mainly for is hot water provision. So thinking about that, how can we come up with a different way? And all of this technology managed through AI, an AI platform is a really key part. But again, I think that there's no rush to move to that technology. Technology is moving so fast in this sector. Our recommendation would be thinking about doing this almost as the last step in that strategy. So last slide, I know Mary's coming on because I've probably overrun slightly. So the conclusions that you'll probably already know is that we need an individual, a strategy for every unit, a design, an archetype. We've been doing some work with Welsh Government and looking at what they've identified as 19 archetypes and saying, actually, if we can come up with a design for these individual archetypes, then we can replicate that over our stock. What we don't need is yet more stock condition surveys. You already know the information you need to start a program, to start investment in the stock. Another stock condition survey is not going to tell you anything that you don't know. The property that was built in 1960 with solid walls is still built in 1960 with solid walls. You've got EPC data. So I guess sometimes we, in the sector, we always go to the stock condition, another stock condition survey, another stock condition survey. Decarbonisation needs to be business as usual. It's just the investment and replacement of components. Those components may be slightly different, but we need to think about doing it in that way. There is currently quite a lot of funding about, and those early adopters are people who are ready to go, are already starting to tap in and maximise that funding. We're doing a number of projects at the moment that are fully funded for clients. That type of support will slowly be withdrawn. So the quicker you're able to get these projects ready, the more you will be able to maximise the funding that's available. Use a partner, find a partner that you can work with, someone who understands this work, not just in terms of how to deliver the work, but also how the components work together, the supply chain, and people that you can trust to deliver a program of this magnitude. And instill the construction playbook principles, partnering, collaboration, working together. It's all important if you're going to make these projects a success. Part of that needs to be investment in training and developing the supply chain and your people as well. And as I said earlier, we will make mistakes. It's an inevitable part of the process, but working collaboratively, use those mistakes to inform the model and make it better for the future and learn together. And the last point I would make is focus on eradicating fuel poverty, not point scoring. EPCA, SAP 90, they're numbers on a spreadsheet. What's important, as I said at the start, is that we reduce those people in fuel poverty, take them out of fuel poverty and cut those deaths that are down to poor housing. That's the focus that we need. Thank you. Right, I'm now going to hand over to Paul.
I'll unmute. Thanks, AJ. I'm from NG, Paul Manning, Pre-Construction Manager, and I'll just give you a little bit about NG. Can everybody see the screen? I hope you can. And we'll start the presentation. So I will start the presentation if I can get the bloody thing to work. Okay, working now. So who is NG? I'll talk to you a little bit about NG Group because you may or may not know the name in the Southwest. Our NG Zero concept, which is retrofit for existing stock, what we do for new build solutions, working with NG, and any questions? Well, obviously questions will come at the end. I'm very conscious of time, so I'll flick through this fairly rapidly, but the presentations will be available afterwards from the Southwest Procurement Alliance. So who is NG? We are a global leading energy and services group with three individual work streams of energy, services and regeneration. As NG regeneration, it's primarily renovation and community development, property services. We've got a strong FM arm as well to complement the regeneration side. We have a global presence, predominantly in Europe, but across the world, of 60.6 billion euros in revenue and 2.5 billion profit in, after tax. So we are a massive organisation, but as a business unit in the UK, we are focused on low carbon generation. We work with over 170 councils, local authorities in partnership to deliver regeneration schemes, and we are #1 in regeneration services in terms of turnover and delivery. The regeneration delivery arm is called Places and Communities, and we're divided into north and south. Obviously, we are in the south and southwest. Our turnover is circa 400 million. There's 19 offices across the south. Your local office is based in Bristol, and we are dealing with over 220 projects. We have a strong apprenticeship trainee scheme working with our clients as community development as well. And we regularly receive CCS awards for site presentations. In P&C South, we have new build homes and regeneration from large-scale housing developments and to high-rise schemes. And we do land assembly. So we're happy to do back-to-back land deals with clients where we source land, we come up with a scheme, we agree to take the development forward, and then we act as contractor to the clients for those development schemes. So NG0 as a concept, NG0 is our renewable energy solution, and it's based around sourcing funding from various opportunities that the government have, and making sure that ultimately the end user, the resident, has satisfaction. So NG0 is a whole house retrofit solution. We guarantee reduced carbon emissions and energy bills. We transform dwellings into warmer, healthier, and more comfortable homes. Picking up on AJ's point, obviously, there's fuel poverty is a massive issue. If we can make the homes warmer and comfortable at a lower cost, then that addresses a significant social demand. We have a fabric-first one-stop approach to decarbonise and digitalise homes, and I'll talk about that in a second. And we offer ability to future-proof so that we can meet the 2050 target. And by future-proofing, we can achieve 70% net zero at a fairly simple system, and we can future-proof so that can be easily expanded with bolt-ons, which we built into the system, to 100% as and when the clients wish that to take place. And those savings, combined with other revenue streams, finance the up costs of the front of the development works. So I have a case study, which is a video. Again, conscious of time, I will only show a short part of the video, just so you get a flavour, but again, the video will be available from the website. And Sam will show a short part of it. There we go.
Paul, I don't think we're getting any sound.
Okay. What I'll do, I'll jump over the video then, because if it's not producing sound, people can watch it at their leisure, and I am conscious of time. But eventually, it's the case study of how NG0 has worked with moat homes to transform existing stock into warm, comfortable homes, using a lot of the stuff that AJ identified: PV panels, external cladding insulation, energy pods on the rear of the dwellings to service them. Immensely successful, and when you do watch the video, you'll see that there's a very happy tenant at the end who he said his energy bills have dropped to almost zero because of the impact that's made. NG New Build Solutions complements NG0, and our approach to new build is we're constantly innovating. We're constantly looking at how we can bring technology into new build developments. So we'll always adopt a fabric first approach, and we construct high quality, well insulated homes, will exceed building regulations as a minimum. We work with our supply chain, many of whom are on the supply list on the Procurement Alliance, and we incorporate tried and trusted technology, PV panels, window systems, heat pumps, etc. And we also incorporate control systems, which can be very basic or can be very complex systems which adapt to the user, and meaning the user has very little to do because the system is adapting to their ways and needs. Those control systems can also work with the clients, that they can monitor the use and support the resident in how they're using the energy in their home, so that if there is any significant energy consumption, that can be monitored and tracked, and, as I say, support the resident to help them reduce their energy consumption. So our new build approach is very simple. It's fabric first. If it's right, if the building's right, then that's half the problem. We apply technology to look at how the scheme can be done, and this can be done incrementally to achieve full net zero, or we can apply it so that it can be retrofitted at some point in the future. And we have control systems to monitor that. And we innovate. We have a team of people globally looking at technology, looking at way the things are implemented across the globe to bring to the UK. And we test, we innovate, and we put into schemes where appropriate. Working with NG, we are new build and retrofit solutions. We have the expertise, we have the backup, we have the experience, we have the global presence, but we are local. We're part of the major group, but we are based in Bristol. We have a full team, dedicated team in Bristol, with the ability to tap into the global resource. We can bring fresh ideas into your projects as to how they can be achieve our NG0 solutions or as new build schemes. We work very much in partnership with our clients and the supply chain to deliver these sustainable homes. And we've got the capability to deliver across all sectors. We're large enough that we can get the best value deals through the supply chain. We're always innovative, and we look to deliver optimum solutions to suit your budget. And for more information, please contact myself. There's my email address. Any questions we can take up at the end. And I'll now hand over to Jason.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see it.
That's great. In which case, without further ado, I will crack on. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a quick chat with you and introduce Amaresco. And in particular, I wanted to talk today about the potential innovative funding scheme, which is Energy as a Service, which is applicable both for social housing and for the wider public sector organisation, and indeed in private sector. So very quickly, who is Amaresco? We're quite a new name in the UK. We were founded in the States over in 2000. And effectively what we do is energy performance contracting. We go in, we identify opportunities to reduce energy spend, either through energy efficiency or renewable energy. We identify what the opportunities are, we design them, we provide funding, either external or internal, and then we go and build them and guarantee the performance. So energy performance contracting, that's all we do. We don't get involved in energy supply or anything otherwise, but it's just the energy performance contracts. To date, we've saved over 11 million tonnes of carbon, and that's something we're very proud of. And really, that's what drives our ethos throughout the whole project cycle. Can we save that carbon? And that goes hand in hand, as far as we can do, with saving our clients money. So in the UK, as we've been here for about 6 years, we've got a very good track record, and we're building more and more projects as we go through. This is just some of the clients we're working with. And really what we'd want to do is work in the long term. So one-off projects are well and good, but what we want to do is build on those projects and develop more and more solutions for our clients and deliver them more and more carbon savings and energy savings. And we're across the whole of the UK, working from Scotland down through Wales, concentrating in London where our head office is, and really now pushing down into the southwest, and hopefully moving closer to home, where I'm based, which is down in Plymouth. Always go the wrong way on these things. So what is energy as a service? How can that help you? The first thing really is just to have a look at the challenges we're all facing. Obviously, COVID has put a whole new spin on where we are, what we're doing, and more home working, which has changed our energy demand. But we're still left with the same issues. We've still got, in many cases, aging plants, aging assets, which are sitting there generating our heat, our cooling, and our electricity. Potentially within the public sector in particular, there's a lot of deferred maintenance backlog. It's not the first thing which comes to mind when we're spending our budgets. So therefore it gets left behind. It's working perfectly well. Why change it? Sustainability targets, obviously we're all moving towards 2050. As we've mentioned before, Bristol has got more of a aggressive target, but everybody has their own targets and everybody wants to do as much as they can do to reduce the carbon and the carbon footprint. But we've got to sort of balance that with a need for resilience. We do all need the energy, and again, as COVID's shown, we get, as our working practices change, that need and resilience is changing as with it. And the final one is the generational change, which is an interesting one. Our workforce is getting older, and a lot of the people are moving on into different works of life, retiring, and we're losing that experience which goes along, and that's very important and is necessary to keep all our plant working. And what we say is that potentially energy as a service could help you solve these challenges and more. So conscious of time, so I'll just flick over the headlines. But what is energy service? What is it meaning to you? Effectively, it's an advanced form of an energy performance contract. It's, for a number of years, we've gone in, we've identified opportunities, and we can guarantee the performance of it. What we're now doing is trying to take more risk on from yourselves, looking at controlling and operating and potentially owning the assets themselves, and turning around and saying to you, don't worry about your energy, we can cover that. If we just supply the electricity, the heat, the cooling from your assets, we'll maintain them, we'll continue to run them, we can guarantee the operation of them and the performance of it. So it's a performance contract, but beyond that, because we can provide the innovation, we can provide the financing. So if something does go wrong, we can replace it, and by doing that continuous replacement, that continuous maintenance, we can introduce more energy efficient, more renewable technologies, and reduce your carbon footprint through a repetitive full service. Our approach is very standard. I think it works well. The idea really is to take all the information you already have, and that is, as AJ said right at the beginning, all those reports you've had done, there's an awful lot of information in there. We can use all that information and work from home and do a desktop study identifying what exactly can be done. And that's more and more important now in the COVID world, where we can't get out and do the site visits. So the first step is to look at what you've got, to look where you are at the moment, talk with the people on site. There's an awful lot of experiences we've talked about within your engineers, within your O&M team already, and find out what they are, what their major issues are, and look at how we can best address them. We can do that, we can develop those projects and those solutions with you. We sit down, we take you through what the costing is going to be, what the savings is going to be, and then look at how best to provide the innovation. What else can be done? What's going around the horizon? So battery storage is probably the most recent one, which is come on board and made a big difference. But what's the next thing? Is it hydrogen? Is it green gas? We just don't know. So we can develop that and we can work with you to look at the strategy moving forward, where you want to get to, what are your carbon goals. Once we've understood all that, we can provide a financing package and then look to implement it ourselves and then provide that ongoing operation and maintenance, really guaranteeing that the assets we've done, the design work we've done is delivered through into the project and delivers what we want it to do. It doesn't need to be complicated. It sounds quite a complicated system, but it can be a single technology. It can be a single site. But the beauty of energy as a service is that we can scale it up. So we can include multiple technologies. So we can do from just lighting through to HVAC systems, through to boilers, CHP, renewable energy, and we can do multiple sites. So if you've got a portfolio of 15 sites, we can lump it all together and use that to generate more savings and greater economies of scale. And the important thing is that your payment for the energy we provided is contingent on our performance. So the better we perform, the better it is for both yourselves and for us. As we own the equipment, all you're expecting to see is the electricity and the heat being delivered. And that's important because that takes away the risk of operational and maintenance from you. Again, it's an all-in package. And providing an off-balance solution, so we can provide that finance, we can provide that innovation around that side of things, so that you don't have any upfront costs per se. You don't own the assets anymore, and that allows you to have a better balance sheet solution. So that's a really quick spin through energy as a service and energy performance contracting. Conscious of time, as everybody always is, I just wanted to give you a few quick examples of where this is being played out in various scales. So the first one is Manchester City Council. We're working with them towards their 2038 carbon target, identifying the opportunities and now installing renewable energy and energy efficiency technologies across their portfolio of Manchester. And this is the first phase, which is being implemented now. Phase 2 is already in development, and phase 3, the buildings are being identified, and we're working on those as well. So it's, again, this is a nice compact site because it's all in Manchester, but as we move into Greater Manchester and the suburbs as well, it gets more and more complex, but equally as exciting. Similarly, Merthyr Tydfil. So we've done Merthyr Tydfil over the last 12 months, looking at opportunities to reduce their carbon and energy spend, and we're just about to start implementing that over the next 2 or 3 months, moving into the summer period, where the best time to do the installations for heating and PV is. Again, it's a small capex, but it's a large impact from the number of sites and the amount of savings that will be generated. Just very briefly, a couple of US examples, which tend to be much larger, primarily because of the size of the sites. So working for the Marine Corps, this is their recruitment area, where they have all the Marines coming through the first 12 months of their Army career. We took away their old boiler plant and replaced it with a CHP, emergency generators, and a very large scale PV, which is in the distance there. Again, that's a 25-year contract where we are looking after the whole O&M of that, guaranteeing that it's there when they need it. The heat and electricity is generated as and when they need it to keep everything moving. And similarly with the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, that's Portsmouth in the US, not in the UK, looking at doing another kind of system. So this was a microgrid system where we took the whole site off grid, essentially, and the idea being to eliminate downtime with the grid capacity, and also to provide them with greater resilience and continuous supply. So that's it. Just a very quick spin through. But the energy service really provides you with the opportunity to get all your deferred maintenance sorted out, to get all the issues which are underlying and preventing the performance of your building stock, your offices bring that up to speed. We've had very little outlay of capital at the beginning, so it's very useful from a financial point of view, and also continuous operation. So once we've got the control of the systems, we can operate that and maintain that service for the 10, 15, 25 years that you want it to be run for. That's it. I'll hand you back to Mary, but thank you very much for your time today. And if you would like to contact me, please do. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody's going to come on screen. We don't seem to have had any questions, so obviously you've all been really interested, as have I, in the the very interesting approaches to the whole energy efficiency retrofit, improving, reducing carbon approaches from our three companies who are highly experienced and offering sort of different but complementary approaches to how to do this. So we're very pleased to have them on our framework, as I say, and I'm sure that some of you will want to talk to them more. As I say, some very holistic, interesting approaches. What more can I say? Oh, somebody said, can you tell me a bit about how the framework has included for PAS 2035 and the issue of retrofit? I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question for me. Yes, do any of my panelists want to answer it for me? Oh, Jason. Oh, no, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily, as I said in my presentation, PAS 2035 is very much amongst us at the moment. Retrofit coordinators, retrofit assessors, there's a national shortage of these roles already. So I think you'll find that the majority of the businesses on this framework are already actively training staff to be able to provide this function in terms of those roles, as well as the requirement for PAS 2030, 19 in terms of installers as well. And I'm sure Paul will elaborate on that.
No.
Or Jason, go on.
But I was just going to say, I totally agree. It is a skill set which is in short supply. Our in-house engineers are fully qualified on that, so we tend to do that all in-house as far as we can do. But it's a growing business. It's a growing area of interest. I think the three of us are fully equipped to kick on and provide that service to you. Sorry,
yeah,
Paul.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same, Jason. We have the in-house expertise to be able to do that, and we're willing to work with other agencies as well if clients have specific choices.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've just got one question, which is somebody saying, can you tell me how EWI designers, suppliers get involved with SWPA and the framework? So my response there is frameworks are appointed and the number of companies on them are set at the beginning of the framework, but the way that doesn't stop anything. The thing to do is to contact the three organisations here and see if you can become a supply chain partner to them. So as I say, you'll get all the information about who's about the contact details and contact them for information about how you can become one of their supply chain partners. Yes. Any other questions for anyone? Francis has also said, how can we find out about the framework and especially which companies are covering which individual measures in which areas? We'll be sending out the framework brochure, which talks about which areas, which companies are covering which individual measures and in which areas to you as part of the follow-up to this presentation. It should be on the website very soon, but I don't know, it wasn't there yesterday. Maybe my colleague Emily can enlighten us.
Central Marketing should be putting it up today.
Yes, so the brochure will be there as well, which will say who covers each measures, but we will get the information out to you as soon as possible. Yes. Any other questions from anybody? Please do, or else you can email us. Do send us emails and keep in contact with us. So all seems a bit bit quiet, but that's all right. But thank you all for listening. I hope you found it of interest. We're going to be doing a more theoretical webinar probably early March on zero carbon and achieving zero carbon with the UK Green Building Council. So we'll be sending out notices about that via social media. But thank you very much for your interest. Please do feel free to contact us or have preliminary chats with our supply chain partners from NG, MySpace and Amaresco. And we look forward to working with you in the future. So thanks very much, everybody. And have a good rest of day, she says. Not very nice weather here in the southwest. But there we are.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you
everybody.
very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.